buddies, let's walk and talk. Walk and talk with me. Ooh, I'm a bit out of it. Kind of recovering from a night of shenanigans. Got a little too inebriated towards the end of that night of shenanigans. But I'm back like it never happened. Anyways, I'm feeling a little rambly today. There's a topic that's been on my mind, kind of scratching all over my brain for some time. And I've seen a few videos from other content creators covering the topic, and I wanted to weigh in on their way in. It's about the music industry. As somebody who's always been a fan of music for as long as they can remember, music has always been such an impactful, just powerful, creative tool that entertains us, that can uplift us, that can help us to process emotions and moments, and it's kind of an integral part of, I think, our journey in life. Just connecting through music and how it resonates and how it impacts pop culture. I feel like there's been so many different takes on the influence that music has on us. But recently I've seen quite a few videos specifically about how music in general, in some genres, just isn't hitting like it used to, right? Like, these artists aren't connecting with fan bases like the artists of the past. They're not passionate about music like some of the artists of the past. They seem to be abusing and taking advantage of, I guess, the fans. That's how some people feel. Like they're just not real artists anymore. There's no artist development. There's no branding. There's no passion. And I do think those are valid points, but one thing that I've realized, and I feel like we've kind of had this messaging over the years, is that the music industry has been exposed. I mean, with all the recent events, we've seen with certain icons and moguls in the industry kind of being taken down and being exposed for taking advantage of people. I think that we've seen slowly and surely that these artists are not benefiting or profiting from their creativity. And that's why there's a huge shift. For example, some of you guys might remember TLC exposing the industry for them being broke at a high moment in their career. And I think a lot of people were shocked because there's this association that if you are seen in the media, right? If you're famous, if you're popular, there's just this attribution to wealth. Like, oh, they're successful. They must have made it. But I think over the years, we've realized more and more that fame does not equate to success. It does not equate to financial, it doesn't equate to being rich or being financially well off. A lot of times, these artists are used to make the labels and producers and the writers money. And they have to find their financial well-being through other venues. And so recently I saw this video about how, like, one artist was being, I guess you could say, clocked for using her music to promote her OnlyFans. I'll say this. For me personally, when I realized just how, I guess, foul the music industry was, I completely empathized with these artists finding and utilizing music in a way to promote and curate their other projects. I feel like my first indication was when I saw Rihanna. Well, when I heard Rihanna's story about how she had been in the industry for so long and she was taken advantage of, I think, by her accountant. And she was either broke or filing bankruptcy. That was shocking to me. And it completely made sense why she shifted away from music and got into her business bag and her branding and using her audience to sell other products, to basically sell her aesthetic, sell her appeal. And I thought it was a smart move, and it made so much sense. So it was a bit funny to me when all her fans would get upset about how she was no longer putting out music. And although I do understand, because Rihanna is a hot artist and her music is, fire, right? But if she's been committing so much of her time and her energy and her resources to providing this type of entertainment and she's not reaping the benefits, why the hell would she want to stay, right? So that definitely was an eye-opening perspective for me. And now I understand more why some of these artists are, in a sense, using music to promote their other businesses, promote their OnlyFans, promote, their makeup lines, their clothing lines, promote their other hustles, their other businesses. You look at artists like, and I don't even want to say his name because the clout that he has is embarrassing. But even Blueface, right? He came out with what? I don't even know if he came out with the album. I think he came out with a couple hot songs. And then since then, he used that and segued into reality TV. And I think for him, he also realizes music ain't it. Making music does not build the life that he probably aspired to. It's just a tool. It's a way to advertise yourself. The passion behind it, I think, is only reserved for a few who can really captivate and capture an audience that wants to invest in their artistry. And even then, especially with the streaming era, you think about how albums used to break down when it came to compensating the artists. There's so many other factors in an artist's project, right? The producers, again, the writers, the engineers, they all are gonna get their cut. And with albums, being charged, what, $15 at one point, that divided between all those different parties, and then whatever's left is trickled down to artists, is not much. But now with the streaming service, they're getting paid way less. You're getting cents to the dollar. Like, you're not actually profiting. You can't actually sustain yourself. You have to go on tour. You have to convince your audience that they need to come spend money to see you live and in the flesh and turned up. It completely resonates with me how music, for a lot of people, again, is a marketing. That's how people talk about gimmicks. It's a marketing scheme. You need to advertise yourself get faces and eyes to see you. And then you can segue into other venues that you feel like will actually give you some type of profit, some type of revenue. It's unfortunate because for me, I was always a huge, and still am, a huge fan of just music in general. Neo Soul was always my first love. I always enjoyed the impact that soul music has, because soul music was very deep, profound. The artists in soul music, their voices sonically, their lyrics, it's like an escape. It puts you in a certain mood, a certain vibe. And that genre has unfortunately kind of faded. I'm sure there are still people who do, release that type of music, but the appeal and the popularity of it has definitely waned. Pop music is always going to have a place in the audience because pop music, which is popular music, is going to be used in its own marketing scheme, right? It's going to be played in certain spaces, certain venues. You're going to hear pop music when you're out at the mall, when you're out eating. If you're at a live event, a game, they're going to play a song and it's going to get in your head and you're going to, vibe to it. It's going to be used in commercials. So that's a completely different genre of music that is always going to be marketable. But even still then, not everybody is able to garner that success as an artist. All this to say, I don't blame these artists. I totally relate and I totally understand. You have a dream to be creative and to connect with audiences. And depending on how you make your way through the industry, right? You might be building a fan base from the ground up. But once you try to break into the mainstream, you realize the business aspect of it, the game, is kind of harsh and cruel. And there are so many hands reaching into your pocket, demanding their cut. We have these insane 360 deals that put these artists in debt, and then they have to face the fact that making that money back, again, it's easier said than done. And then you have artists that do produce, that do write, that are multifaceted and talented, but come to find out that they're still restricted to how much credit that they can get on their own projects. Because if they're signed to a specific label, again, there are certain demands that must be met when it comes to who is working with these artists to produce and to promote and to push their creative, their creativity. And that makes me wonder what the future of music really is going to be like. Because every so often I feel like there is an artist that comes out. For example, like Roddy Ricch, Lil Baby. Those were huge debuting artists that were completely glorified when they first came out. They impacted the culture in a way where a lot of audiences thought that they were going to change the game, right? They're bringing real music back. And then after their first product's released, it's a decline. And I can only imagine what that does to somebody's mental well-being, someone's ego. It's like, man, I came in hot. The people love me. They effing with me. And then all of a sudden, the game shifts. Now, I wonder if that can be argued if the artist has lost their spark, if they've lost that, if they lost that impact, if they lost that kind of gumption that was in their music that people resonated with, or if it's something different, if it's a label, or if it is just their ability to market and connect. I'm curious what other people's opinions might be on this, because I definitely see the shift in the music industry, but I've also, with the realization and the exposure of how the industry has done so many artists dirty, I completely understand and respect that some of these artists have lost their passion for music and are just trying to play the game the best way they can. So let me know what y'all think. Thanks for walking with me. There's a lot of traffic going on, but it's a beautiful day out in LA. Stay safe. And let's get into this new year. It's almost about to be 2024. That's crazy.